Roots are a very important part of the plant. Roots are absorptive structures that gather water and nutrients from the soil or that provide support to the plant. So when we're looking at roots, they have a very important function because they provide support, they keep the plant upright, they gather water, they gather nutrients so that the plant can grow the way it needs to grow. When we look at root anatomy, we start out with a root tip. And what the root tip is it's the end part of the root. Inside of the root tip, we find the meristem that is going to provide for root tissue. And the meristem at this point is actually down in this area right in here. We've got the root cap, which is this material on the outside. You can see all these little dots. All the little dots are where you're getting cell division. Back over here, we have what we call a quiescent center, and the quiescent center is where once the cell divides, it takes a little bit of time to get itself geared up to be able to differentiate itself, to elongate and everything, and that's where material starts or stays back in here, and then from here we're going to get growth outward. A lot of different types of roots. This looks at another one, and you can see how you've got a much more substantial part here, and you've got a little bit of a root tip down here. You can also see that the cells in the roots tend to be a little bit elongate. As they elongate, that puts force on the end of the root to make it grow downward. This is from an orchid plant, and what you can see is this is the root tip out here. It's got little almost fuzzy-like extensions on it, which would be the equivalent of root hairs, and this is where this particular orchid plant gathers nutrients out of the air. On the inside of the root system, we talk about what we call the endodermis. Dermis means skin. Endo means inside. This is looking at a carrot, and what you see on the carrot is we know we've got the epidermis on the outside over here, and on the inside in here you can actually see where we get a differentiation of this tissue into center type of tissue here. This is the endodermis, and the function of the endodermis is basically to allow for material, which is water and nutrients, to come in and be gathered inside of the cell, and as they're gathered inside of the cell, it allows for transport upward. So right there you've got your layer where your endodermis is. If we take a root and we cut it up and we look at it under magnification, it would look like this. We blow it up even more, it looks like that. We take it even more and we can see the endodermis in here. Now, you can see cell wall, and the cell wall on the cells on the inside are kind of pretty pink, and on the outside these cell walls are kind of thin. But when you look at the endodermis has got a lot of cell wall in it, and basically what that does is it forces all the moisture and all of the dissolved nutrients into the center of it, and right there's your endodermis. On roots, we have what we call root hairs. Root hairs are an extension of the epidermis, and the extension of the epidermis here is to help increase the surface area that the root can explore. And as it does that, it allows for a greater amount of volume to be explored. When we look at roots, we have a couple of different kinds. We have fibrous roots. And fibrous roots are very interesting because these are roots that explore out into the soil, and they go out and they gather material in the soil. And they are little fibers, so to speak, little string-like materials that go out like. We have what we call taproots. Taproots go down into the soil. We've got a carrot on the left-hand side. We've got a beet on the right-hand side. These are also used a little bit for storage, and we tend to eat some of these different kinds of taproots because they do tend to have stored food in them. We have got aerial roots. Aerial roots come out of the air. You can see the ones on the right and the left come out of trees. The one in the center comes out of orchids. And these aerial roots basically come down and they look for nutrient, and you can see that on the end of them they've got root caps. We've got prop roots, and prop roots come down out of the upper part of the plant. They go down into the soil, and as they do that, they help sustain the plant upwards, and they also provide for increased absorption of material. So we've got a type of tree on the left-hand side. We've got a more herbaceous material on the right. We've got what we call a buttressing root. The buttress extends outwards and it provides stability. And some of these buttressing roots can get to be extremely large. This particular tree had these very unique buttressing roots, and some of them were several feet in height. and that provide stability. We also have a formation of material on roots that are called mycorrhizae. Myco meaning fungus, rhizae meaning root. This is a symbiosis between a fungus and a root, and it provides for increased absorption for the root. It also provides for increased protection of the root tissue, and the fungus in return gets carbohydrate from the root. You can see this particular type of mycorrhizae, and these mycorrhizae are on trees, and on trees they are basically helping out the trees. They can also be found on herbaceous plants, and there they offer similar protection. They help absorb phosphorus. This is on a seedling pine plant, and you can see the various mycorrhizae coming off. These plants have been inoculated with the fungus in order to make sure that they are able to grow properly. And on roots we have what we call nitrogen fixing nodule. And what a nitrogen fixing nodule does is it's a symbiosis between a root and a bacterium, and these provide for the fixation of atmospheric nitrogen into an organic form that can be used by the plant. This is one where you can actually see color development. The red color indicates that these are actively fixing nitrogen. Nitrogen fixing nodules, another thing that we find on roots. And there it points out the color and where they are found. They come in a lot of different shapes and a lot of different sizes. So when we look at root, a lot of variation of things in roots, a lot of different terms that we have to understand, but they all become a very interesting part of the plant. They provide for absorption of water and nutrients, and they also provide for support for the upper part of the plant.